Do you feel like you're the black sheep of your family? The one that's doing things differently, seeing things differently, thinking differently? And you've often been told to turn it down, do it less, be less loud, be less like this, less like that. Well, I want you to know that even though this might have been hard and you have probably tried to fit in, your difference is your superpower. There is nothing about you that is a coincidence. You were designed absolutely perfectly. So this episode is here to help you reclaim all these parts of you that you have dimmed, that you have pushed down because you thought they were not enough. So stay with me for the next 20 minutes as we reclaim some of your truth and your power. So welcome, beautiful, to another episode of the Sacred Roots podcast. When I was a child, I was bullied. I didn't have many friends. And I remember really well going to school. It was a Flemish school. So in Belgium, where I was born, people speak French and Flemish. It's a bilingual country. Most people speak both languages. And if you want a job that will get you somewhere in life, at least that's what I was told, you need to speak both languages. So my parents, with the best and smartest intentions in the whole world, sent me to a Flemish school. And the three of us, we are three in my family, me and my siblings, we all went to a Flemish school because the best way of learning a language is to actually be immersed in it, right? So as soon as I was 3, I went to a Flemish school. And in my school, there were quite a few French-speaking people. It's not like I was the only one. But for some reason, that is still quite unknown to me. I still don't fully understand why. I have a few ideas, but I don't think that's the whole story. I was bullied and I didn't have many friends. I remember spending hours just at the playground when we had a break, just sitting in the corner of the playground and just waiting for the break to be over so that we could go back to class. And that lasted for years, like the 3 years in kindergarten. And then I spent 6 years there in primary school. And I would say it got better the last year when I was 11, 12, because in the meantime, I had figured out how to make friends, and I had figured out a coping mechanism that I would have to unlearn in the future. Of course, we're going to get there too. So for about 3 until 10, so that's 6 years, honestly, I didn't have any friends. And I don't want to be dramatic, but that was just my reality. And people didn't want to pick me in the football team, and people didn't want to play with me with flippos and balls. And I just spent the breaks on my own in the playground. I was just very easy to bully and to push around. And a lot of really not nice things happened, like when we would go to the pool, people would open the door just when I was naked and about to get changed so that everyone outside could see me naked. I mean, there were some really not fun things that happened that really made me come home just crying and be like, Mama, I want to change school. This is horrible. I have no friends. People don't like me and they bully me. They put me in these horrible situations where I just feel less than. The problem was that I was succeeding. I was pretty good at school, even though I wasn't studying much. And so my parents said, well, as long as you have good grades, because this is good for your education and your future, we want you to stay in that school. And I totally understand their perspective. And I think I very quickly understood that they would never change their mind unless I failed. So I stopped going to them and telling them that I wanted to change school. I just knew, well, that's just what it's going to be. I'm just going to stick with it. But how can I survive? How can I make this environment better? And so I remember really well, because I've always been an empath and highly sensitive, probably why I was pushed around. I remember really well being able to see what people wanted and needed. And that once I would give people what they wanted and needed, or help them with what they wanted and needed, they would be nicer to me. So I became an incredible people pleaser. And I'm sure that many of you who are also empaths and highly sensitive have used that mask to be loved. Because love and safety is what we crave the most as children. And this is something that I really, really, really had to let go in the future, especially in my work today, because it wouldn't serve you, my audience, if I was a people pleaser. Quite the opposite. And so I really developed this personality of trying to fit in, trying to dim the parts of me that was not liked because of this trauma of being bullied and not really having friends up until the age of 11, 12. After that, it got much better and I made a lot of friends because, well, I had figured out how to make friends. You are kind, you give people what they want, what they need, you make them laugh, and they'll like you eventually. But being your most authentic self, well, no, that was very, very dangerous for me. And so what happened in those first years of my life, those first 12 years of my life, is that I was also a psychic. And I would see things. And I would feel things. And we lived in a house that was haunted. Now, that might be too much for you to hear. And you can leave it there if that's, not resonating with you. But that was our reality. My mother made a geobiologist and someone come. And he said, yes, there's a spirit in this house. And I had an interaction with this spirit one evening at night. I mean, is it this spirit or the spirit of my, deceased great-grandparents? That's also possible. I didn't have time to identify what that spirit was because what happened is that I was falling asleep one night and got woken up because I felt a little stroke on my cheek. And I thought it was my mother coming to my bedroom to say goodnight, as she was often doing when she was going to bed, coming to give us a little kiss, which was super sweet. And so I thought it was her. I opened my eyes and it was not her. What I saw was an eerie, white kind of veil image. And I got instantly really scared and I closed my eyes like that. If you're watching the video on YouTube, you're going to see my face. If you're on Spotify, not. But basically, you can imagine the face that I must have done, closed my eyes, wrinkled all my face, and then slowly reopened my eyes being like, what was that? That was a spirit. I know it because I know the house is haunted. Sometimes the TV turns on, the radio turns on. Like there were weird things happening in our house. And I started telling that story, and my parents, they believed me because they were open to that. My father also had a near-death experience when he was 5, so I grew up with that story of near-death experience. So speaking about ghosts and spirits, it's not that we were speaking about that every Sunday, but it was not a taboo topic. So they said, okay, and then they listened and then they just let it there. We didn't really speak about it after. But it was imprinted in my field. And so when I started having friends and when I started trusting people later on as a teenager or even older as I started falling in love with some guys, I would tell them this story at some point of like, I've had an encounter with a spirit. I just know it. Every single time. I was mocked, dismissed, and made fun of. And I remember really well deciding that I was going to stop telling that story. And my ex-husband, who I was 4 years with, but we were only married for 6 months, he would make fun of that story a lot. And I even remember one day when he was traveling for work and I had some friends living abroad and they just happened to be in the same country. And so they met up and went for dinner. And he came back from that dinner telling me, We had a good laugh when we made fun of you and your ghost stories. So, of course, that was not really nice. Maybe that was a red flag that I should have paid more attention to. Yes, you are absolutely right. But I didn't at the time for many reasons that I could speak about in another podcast if you want. But so I learned my whole life that I couldn't be myself, even with the people I loved, even with the people that I trusted the most. So when I began my business, I did everything but be myself. And I knew really well how to be a people pleaser, a professional. On top of that, I had often been told by my family and my friends that I was too cheesy, too sensitive, too emotional. So you can imagine when you hear your whole life that you're too out there, too something, you just become a half version of yourself. And essentially, it's with this half version that I came into the world of entrepreneurship. And very quickly, as I became an entrepreneur, I was also full on in my spiritual awakening, walking the spiritual path, wanting to heal myself, wanting to heal my relationships within my family and with certain friends. Or not heal, so simply set boundaries and let go of them. But as I was really trying to build a business for the first years, I was also really just trying to reclaim who I am. And I realized more and more that as long as I am not my authentic self, I will not be able to live my purpose and to serve the clients that I have. And I'm sharing all of that with you because this is something that I work with my clients a lot. This is a very deep topic that I call the witch wound. And it's really this idea that who you are is not safe to be expressed in the world. Because it is going to be rejected. It is going to be mocked. It is going to be dismissed. And you've probably had experiences where it was in this lifetime, let alone past lifetimes, where absolutely it was not safe to be a witch, to be a healer, to see spirits, to have healing abilities, to be out there, to be spiritual, because the church had the power. And the doctors had the power, and women could just stay home to take care of the babies. Anything else was not accepted. So we all have very deep wounds in the past 2,000 years and in lives where we have incarnated, where we were dismissed and pushed down because we were in our power and our truth. But today, we are remembering. And I would even go further. We need to remember. Because this suppression of the feminine, this dismissal of the feminine, this making fun of a woman because she speaks her truth, because she's sensitive, because she's loving, because she's creative, because she's spiritual, because she's psychic, it is present in the majority of human civilization. And this has led us to a place of destruction. And of definitely not being kind to each other, not loving each other, because deep down we are all hiding something. I think we are all struggling with that to a degree or another. And so we need to remember to bring ourselves back, to bring humanity back, to bring the collective back to a place of deep respect, deep honoring, and also ascension and elevation of our consciousness. And this is exactly what the age of Aquarius is about. We have now stepped into the age of Aquarius, which is all about individuality and expressing your authentic self. Also, community and humanitarian actions, like there's more than that. But Aquarius really stands for being in your truth, being your authentic self, being your individual. Because everything about you is perfect. Is beautiful. There is nothing about you that is a mistake, that is imperfect. You are whole already. Now, does that mean that you don't have to evolve? That you don't have to let go of certain parts of you? No, the two coexist. But it's not because you can let go of people pleasing. That would be helpful. You can set better boundaries and you can honor your truth more, that you're broken. You are whole and perfect, and also on a path of honoring more who you really are, of remembering who you really are, of bringing together all the pieces of you that you have pushed down because at some point in your life, it wasn't safe. And this work that you're doing, and that I know all of you who are listening to this podcast now are doing, yes, you're doing it for yourself, but you're doing it for your mothers too. You're doing it for your grandmothers. You're doing it for the feminine and masculine lineage that you come from, that didn't have the tools, that didn't have the knowledge, that didn't even know they could be their most authentic selves. And as you heal, as you step more into your truth, of course, you're doing it for your daughters and your sons, your children. And what I really want you to feel in your bone and in your soul, in your heart, is that if you are the black sheep of your family, if you are the one that's different, it's because you came here to break the cycles, not to repeat them. It's because you have the strength, the wisdom, the potential to create a new timeline and to not fit into a world where you were never meant to fit in. Because this world wants you to stay a good girl, not too loud, not too smart, not too beautiful. Everything that is just a little bit out of the average is often dismissed. And this isn't serving anyone on the planet. And this is definitely not what nature is. Look at nature. There are so many roses, but not two roses that are the same. There are so many trees, but not two trees that are the same. Nature is about variety, differences. Nature needs all those differences to thrive, just like we do. Because we are all like a part of the beautiful tapestry of life. We are all like a note of a beautiful symphony that is being played. So you play your note, you sing your song, because you are part of the symphony. And as the black sheep of the family, as the one that thinks differently, feels differently, that might have suffered bullying, and that has learned to be their authentic self, you have done that to break the cycles, to heal the transgenerational patterns, to heal yourself, of course, and then to create a new paradigm. Because your sensitivity, your empathy, your gifts, your too muchness are going to create something that has never existed before. And it's this frequency that is different about you that people have been feeling since you were born, but maybe not always have been able to pinpoint. And that's probably why you might have been pushed around a bit more, or dismissed a bit more, or pushed down a bit more, because that might have put some people uncomfortable, made them uncomfortable, mirrored something about them. Probably that they were also suppressing a part of them. So this is a very, very deep healing journey that we are all on for our own lives, for the healing of the past and our lineages, but definitely for the creation of the future. Most visionaries and change makers, they were ridiculed before they were praised. And I'm making this podcast to really invite you to honor who you are and to remember that the fears that you have in your heart of, I'm going to be rejected, I'm going to be abandoned, I'm going to be shamed, I can't possibly imagine expressing this part of me in the world and it being received. I see you and I honor you. And I want you to love these parts of you. And one step at a time, start expressing them because they are in you for a reason. You are designed perfectly. And with all these gifts, all these personality traits, all these parts of you, you came here to create something, to have an impact, to touch other people's lives. But you will only be able to do that if you fully honor who you are and if you are in your truth. So let all of this really ripple out and ripple in your body, your chakras, your field. And decide now, knowing that nothing about you is a mistake and that all your too muchness, your witchiness, your craziness was designed perfectly. What are you going to do differently from now on? What are you going to take action on? What are you going to express? What are you going to put out into the world? What are you going to say differently? Now that you know, you have always been meant to express that, not dismiss it. And if that's hard for you, find your tribe. There is nothing like finding the world, the place where you belong. Because suddenly you're going to realize, oh, I'm not that crazy. I'm not that wild. I'm not that witchy. There's a lot of people like me out there. The more you can surround yourself with them and have that safe space, the more it's going to help you to express that into the world. And if you're seeking a place like that, would highly recommend that you sign up to my free soul workshop that is coming up, and that will be on September 16. It is called She Who Remembers. I'm going to take you on a journey to remember who you really are and who you came here to be. So find a link in the show notes of this episode. Sign up. It's going to be free, and I highly, highly recommend that you sign up and join us live, because this is going to be an incredibly powerful workshop to help you fully step into your truth, your purpose, and make the impact that you came here to make as a result. I can't wait to see you there and in the next episode as well. In the meantime, so much love.